Hey everybody, Road Toad Racing. So I've said before, if I ever got the side apart, I'd show you my clutch setup. So today I'm actually working on this belt guide. This piece of metal is too thin and it vibrated and it finally, the weld broke, which, I can't weld, so not a surprise. So I'm working on fixing all that up and making new braces. Just making a few little adjustments. As you can see, my belt's a little chewed up. Which, I'm not complaining. This belt is probably 6 months old. So that's pretty good. And what I think is causing the belt to chew up is this piece here, which is used for your clutch brake. It's biting into the belt. So I'm actually going to make a bracket that comes up on this side and goes across the back with a bolt. And I'm going to put roller bearings on there. And then I'm going to put some roller bearings here. So when it comes down, it'll pinch it and stop it, but it'll still allow it to roll just a little bit. So anyways, that's what I'm working on. But here is my clutch setup. Okay. My pulley off the motor, obviously. And I have a guide here. It doesn't touch, but boy is it close. You want it to be really close, but not touching. You need this guide because as you push the clutch in, okay, it puts slack in. Well, you want the slack to come up around your front engine pulley. And that's why having a guide on top and bottom, it won't allow the belt to fall here. It'll allow the slack to come around your pulleys, front and rear. Now I added this pulley, so this is much less clutching distance. Keeps constant tension then from here to the engine. Same thing with this bottom pulley. Constant tension from here to the engine pulley. So when you do clutch it, you're getting slack on this pulley back here, and you're getting slack up on the engine pulley. It's a pretty simple setup. A lot of people call it the creepy crawler setup. I guess he's the one who originally came up with this idea. So, I've seen other wheel horses that people have done this with. Now, I am going to try something a little different. I have seen only a couple do. Down here off the clutch arm, I'm going to weld another piece of steel that comes up, and I'm going to put a pulley in here that'll ride on the top and put some tension there, so as you clutch it goes with it and just kind of helps keep the slack back there and none up here. So yeah, pretty simple clutch setup. This really isn't difficult to do. I used an existing hole for this one. Some guys come back and drill a hole back here so the belt comes up more. I didn't do it just because there was a hole already there and it was just easier. Works just fine. I have no issues. Now I'm still running the stock pulley, which I am going to change that here when I lock the diff and everything. I'm going to put something just a little bit smaller and do the holy poly mod and everything else on it. But again, that's all coming when I lock the diff and have to pull the rear end out. It's just the last thing that really I got to do on this tractor other than the axle swap, which is getting ready to happen. Hood's off. I wanted to tackle this first, get this belt guide put on, and just beefier. I mean, it was never really intended to last as long as it did. I just kind of put it on there to test things out, and it worked, and I just kept running it, and I knew it would break from the vibration, and it did. It broke when I was out ripping and tearing in the snow the other day, so figured it was time. All right, let's pull this all apart and get things fixed up. And plus, I'm also working on my rock guards and tree kickers today, coming off the footboards, so I had to pull the footboards off both sides since I'm working on that too. So I mean, it was just made sense, you know, to do all this. Now, another thing with this clutch is I put this bolt in here. The reason I put that bolt in, when you do a pulley swap, it changes everywhere where the belt runs from factory, because obviously it ran up across here, you know, this pulley wasn't here or anything, so it ran straight up. Your belt cover was actually your guides, these lips. Now this one's been cut off on the top, but these were your guides that kept your belt in place from the factory. So that's another reason why you have to add, you know, your belt guides, because you're eliminating them and you're changing the, you know, where the belts run from the factory. As for this bolt, as I was saying, the reason you got to put this in is because once you change all this, your clutch brake was originally here, welded onto the belt cover from the factory. Well, you got to cut that off because it's going to be in the way. So then you got to make a new brake, clutch brake, basically, for your belt. So that's why I just put a bolt in there to use for now, because I knew when I built this I intended to eventually put roller bearings in there. I've just never gotten around to it. So I figured today was the day. I'm just gonna do that. I did discover today that bearings are starting to go in this pulley, so I'm gonna have to get on the wheel horse parts and order a new one, or do some search and see if I can find something that's a little bit better. I mean, it wasn't in the greatest shape when I built this anyway, but it's really starting to sing and get loud, and it's getting loose. I had it apart, I lubed it up, and I tried to pack it with grease, but it's, you know, I mean, it's going to be a little quieter, but it's going out, so got to get a replacement for that. But yeah, I mean, that's literally, that's my clutch setup. I told you guys I would show it, and here it is. Here's my other guide. Yeah, I'm just sitting it on the belt for now. Oh, stay. Well, you kind of get an idea. And that one goes there. And then I use the existing hole here, and I run a piece down, weld it. Of course, it'll be up higher. And then I'm using, originally I was using this bolt back here off the engine, but once I went to a much bigger flywheel, of course I couldn't do that no more, so now I'm using the bolt off the bottom of the gas tank, and I just bent a piece here. But I'm going to sturdy that stuff up and brace it, make some better mounts. That way the vibration, it ain't going to crack and break again. So yeah, that's the belt setup, guys. It's really not difficult. You just gotta make sure you get everything lined up right. Keep your belt up. You know, you don't want it running down low, so you want to keep it up. That's the reason for this pulley here. It's just to keep it up. And I tried to keep mine just a little bit lower. I mean, that bolt hole worked great. I tried a bigger pulley, but it brought the belt up too high. I want it on a little bit of an angle, so it can just help with the water and the mud runoff. Of course, it probably really doesn't, because you're flinging it all forward anyway, but Yeah, in my new guide, some guys will run a piece of metal off this top guide up here that'll run and come all the way up and around this pulley. Now, I did it on my original pulley that I had on here, and it did. It worked fine. I haven't seen the need for that with this one, just because it's such a deep V groove. There's no chance of it ever coming up out, and I get slack up here, so I don't do that. However, I may put one on it this time, just to wrap up around, to keep the mud from spraying. Because this thing just throws it and it starts coming up around, and so I may put one. Actually, I probably will. I'm going to put one on here just to cover up the top of this, just to help keep the mud from coming back. And I'm working on wiring up the winch. Oversight, can't open the hood all the way. Didn't put it far enough forward. Kind of a bummer. It's going to make putting gas in a little bit more of a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. I'm not moving it. It works. I like it. No big deal. I mean, you can still open the hood, just not the whole way. You got to hold it up. So, no big deal. But yeah, guys, there's the clutch setup. So, I'm not going to give you measurements. I'm not going to sit here and measure, because I didn't measure. I used existing holes where I could, you know, and just, I made it. You know, that's all you guys really got to do. You just got to throw the thing together and get things to line up, and you're good to go. I use these wider pulleys with the lip on it so the belt can actually move side to side. And you can see where the belt rides. It rides more on this outer side than it does on the inside. No big deal. I don't care. It's staying in. You know, everything is still in line. I don't have any issues with this one. It rides perfect in the center. I used washers to space it. So, yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Make sure you use grade 8 bolts, guys. Use grade 8 bolts on everything. Don't be cheap. Spend a couple cents to get better bolts. So yeah, just thought I'd give you guys a quick glimpse of the clutch. I also got to bleed that brake too today while it's apart. It's a little soft. It has been since I put it on. It needs bled. So I might do that today too. Last day where it's going to be kind of warm out here, so trying to get some work done. Alright guys, any questions, comments? You know, feel free. You know, I try to answer as best as I can. Like always, hit like, hit subscribe. That way you guys can see more of my videos and how I build stuff. And I gotta get some riding videos up soon, so they'll be coming. Alright guys, Road Toad Racing. Later.